This is Sports Charlotte, the podcast about sports in Charlotte. My name is Herb White. I'm editor-in-chief of the Charlotte Post. And with me, as usual, is Cameron Williams, who is
I can't get over being introduced.
our reporter extraordinaire who does sports like no other. And that's a good thing. So
I would hope.
well, yeah. It's Friday, February 14, Valentine's Day in Charlotte, 2025. And in the spirit of love and companionship, let's talk about the Hornets and Mark Williams. This saga is never ending, and I think now we've gotten to the point where the two parties are a wee bit disaffected, to put it mildly.
Well, according to what you told me, it seems like they might be breaking up.
Well, that is one of the keys to having a good Valentine. If you're of a certain mindset, break up so you don't have to buy anything.
Well, when you told me that Mark Williams unfollowed the team, that was kind of like a bit of a shocker to me, because it's like the Hornets are almost going to bat for this guy by raising a big stink with the Lakers and talking to the NBA's execs and trying to get basically this thing flipped. I mean, it's almost like they're going to bat for you, saying, okay, what they did was kind of unjust. And I mean, the way Mark Williams has to be feeling right now is that his value for the rest of his career is almost diminished, because, I mean, let's face it, when you have a trade rescinded because of a failed physical and a lot of other issues being reported than just his back, that doesn't bode well for your future, not only with the current team you're on, but just any team that they might not look at him as favorably in the future.
It's a mess and a half. And for Mark Williams, it's really bad because it labels him now.
Yeah.
In terms of damaged goods, at least as far as the Lakers are concerned. And the Hornets, last we checked, when they had their statement welcoming him back to the fold and all that other stuff, it looks like he's not ready to go back to the fold. He still hasn't showed up, unfollowed them on social media, and I think he's in his feelings right now.
Well, I try to put myself in a player's shoes. How would you feel if it was a very tough decision to move Mark Williams, even though
they moved him?
They moved him all right, and they were excited to welcome Dalton Connect and Cam Reddish and get all these pick swaps and future picks, and then it's like, maybe we don't want him because we don't think he'll play much. I mean, how would you feel? It's like, we'll welcome you back. No, y'all want to get rid of him.
But it wasn't like they were trying to get rid of him because he was a sorry player. It's not like he's a scrub. He had value as far as the Hornets are concerned. Think about it. What do the Hornets need more? A big who can protect the rim and grab rebounds and has some offensive ability, or pure scoring?
Well, until they got Nurkic in the following trade, they needed to keep a center, but knowing they had a backup plan of getting another center in there, they needed pure scoring. And I think that's obviously what you get with Dalton Connect, and even giving some starters some breathing time on the bench with Cam Reddish. So it's tough. I don't know how I'd feel if I was in his shoes either, because, you didn't want me, and now you're welcoming me back, because you really don't have a choice.
This is true. This is true. But on the other hand, it was a business decision. Business is business. And if young Mark Williams wants to look at it as a business decision, and it's in his business interest not to return to the Hornets, that's his decision. Although he is still under contract, so it's not like he's free to just walk off and go wherever he likes to play basketball. So I understand why he's in his feelings. We all want to be loved. At least most of us want to be loved or needed or something, even wanted by other than law enforcement. obviously. But you want to be in a place where you feel that you can be a contributor. And it's not like he can't be a contributor. Even if you have Nurkic on the squad now, you still have two bigs if he's playing, or three because you got a body too. But he's a semi big. But in terms of the business side of it, I don't blame the Hornets. I don't necessarily blame Mark Williams for feeling the way he does. And the Lakers did what they did. Neither side could control what the Lakers were doing. Williams couldn't, the Hornets couldn't. The Lakers, who, if you follow the Hornets narrative, sought to make this deal. So I was like, okay, why are you flirting with me? And then you turn right around and send your gifts back.
Yeah.
So,
Well, looking forward, assuming they can't get this figured out and Mark decides to still hold out and not play, what do the Hornets do? They've won one game in their last 10. Started off 0-3 on this road trip.
And it's going to continue.
They go into this All-Star break, but then their gift to come out of the All-Star break, they got the Lakers with Luka.
But it's not like they haven't seen Luka Doncic before. They just haven't seen him with LeBron James.
Yeah, and I mean, it's the Lakers hadn't been like beating up on teams lately, but give it some time, and I think that could be a really dynamic duo once you give them a little bit of time to gel. I mean, Luka's only played in 2, 3 games for him so far, so
yeah, and they've won. Was it 3-1?
Yeah,
2-1, something like that.
They beat the Jazz and they lost to the Jazz, but I'm pretty sure those are the only 2 games that Luka's been back for.
Okay, but then the Lakers are going to do what the Lakers do, and the Hornets are appealing to the NBA for what? I don't know. I mean, what are you going to tell them? Make that trade go through. Make them take Mark Williams, and we get our original folks in the deal, and then we'll be satisfied. I don't think that's going to happen.
I don't think it's going to happen that bluntly, but what I think they can do is be like, okay, we need to see this physical form. We need to see what they were looking at and what he didn't pass and gauge exactly what they were. Because if it comes back and they find out that they were having buyer's remorse, then there's something to be said.
But then, what can you do? That's the issue.
Well, at that point, then, I mean, if the NBA comes back to find that the Lakers were being a little nitpicky and they didn't pass him as a result of just saying, oh, we don't think this guy might hold up for us, and we're getting cold feet. You can make the trade go through. I mean, that can happen.
That would be unprecedented. I mean, you've got to make that trade go through now, is what the Hornets are demanding that the NBA do.
It's what they're wanting to look into.
They can look into it all they want. It's still not going to happen. You're talking about one of your marquee franchises, not only in the NBA, but in all of North American professional sports. I don't think the NBA has the gumption to make the Lakers go through on that trade, even if they find some hanky-panky going on.
Yeah, because the Lakers and the Celtics are the prized possessions of the league.
Yeah.
But I guess, all in all, I just wish Mark would start playing again. I wish he could get out of his feels and start playing again. But as we transition from one disgruntled teammate of his current team to another, Cam Newton. Let's talk about Cam Newton and what he had to say about his teammates.
Yeah. Man, it is on around here because now former Carolina Panthers quarterback Cam Newton went on Travis Hunter's podcast to offer his perspective on being the first overall player taken in the NFL draft. And he ruffled some feathers among his former teammates, even though Panthers don't have feathers. But that's another story. When he walked into the locker room in his rookie year, it was a room full of losers.
Yeah.
And man, did he catch strays from all over for that remark. Keep in mind the Panthers were 2-14 the season before he arrived. The NFL had just come off a lockout where the owners basically told the players, "Take a hike. We're not giving you anything you want." And ultimately, both sides came to an agreement. But in the meantime, Jerry Richardson, who owned the Panthers at that point, the founding owner of the franchise, basically gutted the roster, especially at quarterback. And they were not very good the season before. And in 2011, they drafted Cam Newton and made Ron Rivera the head coach. So they brought him in, hired him, and those two obviously were joined at the hip for their tenure in Charlotte. And some of Cam's Newton's, that is, former teammates, did not take kindly to being called losers in essence. Steve Smith,
most notably.
Yeah, Captain Munnerlyn. I'm surprised, folks didn't just say, "Well, meet us outside and we'll settle this the old-fashioned way." But in an era of social media, it's just back and forth. So it's sort of like beef with a button.
I went back and I actually watched the Travis Hunter podcast this morning in preparation for this, and it even caught me off guard. I knew what the man was about to say, but just the way he said it with such brashness, it's like, me being the number one pick, what does that mean? And Hunter being all naive, he's like, well, because you're the best player. He's like, nah, you're looking at that from a personal standpoint. From an organizational standpoint, it means this was the worst team in the league. So I'm going in there as the number one pick to a locker room full of losers. And just said it with such a
matter of fact.
Yeah, just such a kind of a gruff tone. And then he doubles down. In his 4th and 1 podcast, he said calling them a locker room full of losers was aggressive, but he maintains that it's true. I receive what Steve Smith said because, of course, he takes it personal as a competitor that I know he is. He was in that locker room that was 2-14. Jonathan Stewart was in that locker room that was 2-14. So it's not like he's being apologetic here.
No, but in his defense, and I'm not going to defend him purely for the defense, but if you're talking about, is 2-14 indicative of a loser? Yeah, it was a losing team with a losing record, but there are also, just like with any team that underperforms, there are some gems in there. So that's the point that I think his former teammates are really up in arms over. It's like, and it's not like that team was bad over a lack of talent that was anything other than intentional. Because again, Jerry Richardson purged that roster. All but core guys were left, and as anybody who follows football knows, you can have 4 or 5 stud players and still be a bad team.
Oh, for sure. And I think that's a lot of what you saw with the Panthers, because to call individuals losers, it comes off, obviously, these players have a right to be a little bit peeved with Newton, but they have, like you said, individual talent. Steve Smith had experienced plenty of winning, been to a Super Bowl.
And he's a Hall of Fame finalist, semi-finalist, whatever, but he's closer to Canton than a lot of people are.
Exactly, and you talk about other players that were on this roster.
Jordan Gross.
Yeah. Jonathan Stewart, D'Angelo Williams. These are players that know what winning's like. So to call them losers as individuals is a bit brash.
Yeah, and then to talk about hearing players discussing playing golf. It's like, okay, well, we're talking about pro football players. They're talking golf throughout the season. So what's the issue there? I don't play golf, but I hear it from all kinds of people in all kinds of locker rooms over my years. So I just think that it was spoken in a way that offended. I don't think he meant any offense by it necessarily, but Cam Newton can mangle a word or two when he's talking to folks, and this is no secret. So it's like, yeah.
Seeing some of these quotes from his 4th and 1 podcast the other day, I mean, he said his take was more nuanced than his brief podcast segment talking about the Travis Hunter part.
Mm-hmm.
But he reiterated that everyone needs to stop being quite so sensitive. And then, and this is a quote, the following year, his rookie year, do I get to say that we were winners? No, mother, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like he's... There's no remorse. And it's not like... I think he meant to step on toes.
Well,
some people say they don't think so, but if you're doubling down like this, maybe.
Keep in mind also, we're talking about podcasting, which is what we're doing, and so that space is very competitive. And if you want to remain relative or relevant, you may have to say some provocative stuff. And
he checks the boxes.
Yeah, during his playing days, Cam Newton was not necessarily that provocative. He was fairly guarded, even though, like I said, he would say some things, maybe mangle the, the pronunciation or enunciation of stuff, and say things that leave you scratching your head. But now, if the name of the game is to be relevant, have people talking about you like we're doing, okay, well, mission accomplished.
You succeeded.
Yeah, and perhaps that was the intent all along. And so if some of the former teammates are upset and all up in their feelings, then I'm sure maybe at some point they will get together and hash it out in the true spirit of brotherhood. Or beat the brakes off and take your pick.
I think that could lend to quite a few lawsuits. Because let's face it, these are all grown adults. Yeah, you want to beat on each other, but they got lawyers.
Yeah, and I'm just having fun there. I know they know better than that because stuff can get expensive, and you don't want to be seen in that light. And besides, everybody's a keyboard warrior these days. That's probably as far as it'll go.
Hypothetically, I know we were talking about this earlier. Who would win that tussle, if you will? I know you say Steve Smith.
I put my money on Steve Smith.
He was aggressive, but it's like I was saying. You can be an aggressive Chihuahua. Cam Newton, he is a lot bigger than that man.
I understand that. But to me, Steve Smith is that kind of dude. If you want to really go to scrapping with somebody,
he ain't the one.
Or if you're taking your own little platoon, he's your platoon leader. Wow. It's like, okay, we're gonna take our chances with the little guy.
Yeah. Okay. Well. Okay. Cam Newton in his prime, like say 2013 to 16 Cam, when he was actually muscular before he went vegan and got all slight. When Cam had some girth to him, whew, I don't know, that's a tough one.
Well,
that Cam Newton was different.
But that Steve Smith was a match for anybody in the NFL. And I'm telling you this from an up close. I followed these dudes during their time in Carolina. Steve Smith in games would take on cats who were way bigger than him.
Fair enough.
I mean, he's like 5'9", maybe on a good day. But dude was the one you didn't want to mess with. And he even treated people in the media like that. It's like, okay, yeah, if you said so, Steve, we're not in any position to want to argue with you. Not today.
Well, okay, fair enough. Back to the hardwood.
Mm-hmm.
Got a little women's basketball to talk about.
Let's do.
Coach Tamika Reed got her first home American Conference win and first home win in 58 days.
Man, it's about time. And congratulations.
She was quite giddy post game after that one. She was like, it's kind of good to get the monkey off your back kind of thing, as the old saying goes. It was a total performance, something that she's been looking for. In some games, the team would get off to a slow start and have to battle back. In other games, they get off to a fast start but then take their foot off the gas, and another team would come back and win. This time against Wichita State, had a great first quarter, really ratcheted up on the defensive end. Alexis Andrews, might as well rename her Alexis Curry because, boy, she was on fire.
Yeah.
9 of 15, had 27 points, but she was really sharp shooting from outside. Even Kiana Rembrandt, power forward, kind of center, she had a good game with 19 points, had the best plus minus on the team at plus 16. Across the board, it was just an all around performance. Even some of the players that didn't score, they were adding in rebounding, adding in assisting. Jordan Peake got 2 steals. So Imani Smith, who only scored 5, but she got a block, 4 assists and 3 rebounds. So everyone was contributing in their own way. And Alexis Andrews off the bench, obviously I mentioned her already, 6 of 11 from 3. Torching the nets.
That's a good formula. And now the question becomes, can you duplicate that and make it portable where it'll travel with you as well as remain at home? I'm not exactly sure that this is anything but an acclimation season for Charlotte. When you talk about new coach, new players, understanding concepts, and then building consistency. I think that this year is sort of it's a wash.
Mm-hmm.
What are you going to do next year? That is the key question.
So start with recruiting. I mean, and we say this about Charlotte on this podcast all the time. Where's the money in the NIL fund to get some players out of the transfer portal that are going to be like, oh, wow, this chick came from UConn that's going to be on Charlotte's roster? Or, oh, my goodness, they're coming from Tennessee, South Carolina? Do they have the means to go get those types of players? Right now, no.
Yeah, but even at that, you can either cop to your shortcomings or you can get busy overcoming them. So that is, again, what we talked about in the previous podcast. You can sit there and wail about what you don't have, but in the meantime, the expectation is to win. You're not hired to whine about NIL and who you can't recruit.
Yeah.
Because administrators aren't interested in hearing that. It's like, well, the administrators could run the team if that's the only requirement. You sit up there and complain. Yeah, anybody can do that. But can anybody go into this situation and win? That's the question. So,
Well, they got a good test coming up tomorrow. They'll be on the road at ECU, team that they lost to at home in a closer game than I think many would have expected at the time because Charlotte was on a bit of a long-standing losing streak at that time. But they only lost 72-65 when they played in Halton Arena, and Charlotte has had a tendency to play or perform better on the road. So you got another shot at them. Coach Reed said in her post-game interview after Wichita State, she saw one of her assistant coaches grabbing the basketball, like signifying they got to rebound better. They did get out-rebounded against East Carolina, but we'll see. You talk about consistency. They haven't had that yet. They've only had, one time where they've had back-to-back wins. So it's been win, loss, win, loss, win, loss. So you see the trend there. They're trying to build consistency. Getting a back-to-back win against your in-state rival would be very crucial, especially when you have South Florida, who's towards the top of the league. They'd be coming to Halton Arena on the 18th. So getting a win this weekend, I think, is very important. And if you can't get a win, at least be competitive. At least be a 1 or 2 possession game, not blowout city.
Yeah, you want to be able to build towards something special. And we'll go back to what the late Florida State football coach Bobby Bowden talked about. When new coaches come in, you change things around. There's usually steps to becoming relevant. Losing big, losing close, winning big. I think the 49ers are still at 1-2.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe not necessarily losing big, not on a consistent basis, but they are still losing way more than they are winning. But you want to be able to get that situation flipped to where you're at least competitive and winning some close games if you can get in position to do it.
Well, they won against FAU on the road 75-68. Beat Memphis actually larger than a lot of people probably thought, 67-59. Beat Wichita State in, I don't want to say blowout fashion, but 73-59. So some of their wins have been close-ish. They've had their fair share of blowout wins against Presbyterian to start the season, UNC Asheville, but some of their losses have also been
horrifying.
Wake Forest 19 points, Ohio State, 40. And see, some of them are also outliers too, because Miami, they lost by 16, but that game was tied at halftime, or Charlotte might have even been up. Again, talking about the consistency and being able to finish games. But yeah, right now they're at that losing close, winning close, but this has been an experience for Coach Reed, and I'm actually working on a feature on her, and we talked yesterday. She's like, yeah, there's been some hard days. There's been some days, you don't want to get out of the bed, or you don't want to, do this, and it's like, what is your goal? And she was talking about her goal is to just inspire her players to prepare them for life outside of basketball, and if they are able to continue their career in basketball, great, but her mission is more than just dribbling and shooting a basketball. So, a couple more games left on the schedule. I think, 6 or so, and then the conference tournament. So, we'll see how they wrap up the season, but it was a good sight just to see a total performance, and one that I'm sure Coach Reed was glad to see as well.
Yeah, it's something to build on, but it's an acclimation period. Year 2 is when the expectations should become realized or problematic. We'll see. We'll see. But in the meantime, go to our website, thecharlottepost.com, become a subscriber or a donor, and also while you're at it, subscribe to our sports newsletter. It comes out once a week, where it gives you a comprehensive wrap of everything that we've worked on. And in a town like Charlotte, there's plenty to talk about. And of course, that's why the podcast is here. And we need your support to be able to continue on that mission of bringing news and information to you, because it's free to you at the website and on our YouTube channel, but it isn't free to produce. So we need your help to make it happen. Thank you so much for that. And thank you for being here with us for this Valentine's Day edition of Sports Charlotte, where love is in the air and folks don't have a care. So for everybody here in beautiful Derita, I'm Herb.
I'm Cam.
Thanks for listening and watching.